and several other places, I'm not sure, and they were regulars. One lady from Alabama. And all of them said they were very disappointed in Hazel and that they probably would not be back because of what's going on. And they didn't even know the full story. And there's no sense trying to explain it to people out of town that don't live here. But I had several people say, and one gentleman was going to write a letter of protest to the city council. Whether he ever did or not, I don't know.
Thank you. Anyone else?
You flew past me. I was.
Sorry.
All right, Doug.
I'm Doug Steinley. My wife and I own the jewelry store on the corner here, and I won't need 5 minutes. All I want to say is the same thing we've been saying all along. We're not trying to say who's right in this issue. Mm-hmm. We just know that if there can't be some compromise worked out to allow Charlie's to reopen, this is going to end very badly for the city of Hazel. No doubt about it. If you're in the other camp that believes Charlie's being closed will not hurt the city of Hazel, then you're the problem we have, whoever that is, because that is certainly not true. We will suffer. We're already suffering. Now it can be said that this is a slow time of the year, but I mean, a couple of days each week we see one car on the street, and that's it. And Charlie's brings the people to town. They shop the rest of our stores. As a result of it, there's got, as the lady in the front said, sane people should be able to work out a compromise.
All right, good. I've got one thing to be able to say before I'm going to turn it over to Trevor. I understand your concerns. We didn't close Charlie's. This has been very similar to a bad soap opera directed by Jerry Springer and a Greek tragedy. Very simple points. $25 per year business license. Then someone's going to say, oh, well, you changed things in 2007. There's a list involved. Names have to be turned in. Didn't have to until 2007. In 2000, before that, Mr. Goff maintained that the business license ordinance that we had did not apply to his business model. So therefore, that's why the previous mayors and councils was not successful in being able to get this thing turned in. This is pretty simply just the right of the city to be able to enforce its laws. And it's a $25 per year business license. And it could have been, prior to 2007, they could have just come in and done what they had to do, which is fill out a business license form. 2007, the law was given clarity to make sure that everyone understood, because there appeared to be issues with some way to understand it. Council's been very, very clear and has, up to this point, been unanimous on enforcing a business license ordinance. I've heard everyone's concern, and I understand it. We didn't close Charlie's. Charlie's closing their own. The business license ordinance, no one has yet ever to be able to describe to me in a coherent way how a $25 per year business license and being filled out to City Hall can prohibit business. No one has. And I've talked to several of you all, but none have been able to come up with any lucid argument that explains that. So, at this point in time, since there were some issues raised, Trevor, I don't want to go any further into it, so I'm going to let you take it from there. After that, we'll begin conducting our business.
Ladies and gentlemen, as the mayor said, my name is Trevor Coleman. I've represented the city for a number of years now. Whether or not I've met you or not, some of you I know, a lot of you I don't. Let me let you know up front, I'm not discussing anything before you tonight about the lawsuit. Anything I do as their counsel and as your counsel is bound by the attorney-client privilege. If you have general questions for me about the ordinance as it currently reads, I'll be happy to explain that to you to the extent I can. But I can tell you this, and I assume all of you have read the ordinance itself. You do know what it says and what is being enforced.
I have a copy if any of y'all want to see it.
If you haven't read it, I encourage you to read it. It's very similar to what's been on the books for close to a century. It has some changes as to has to comply and what you have to do to be in compliance, but it's not a very difficult ordinance to comply with. That having been said, there was a question about the Kentucky Open Meeting Act and the Kentucky Open Records Act. Everything that they discussed in executive session before was at my request. I gave them a number of scenarios to look at, which have been discussed between Mr. Haverstock, who represents Mr. Goff at the present time, and with me. And we had reached a number of tentative areas that needed to have issues defined and agreements reached. The main thing that they gave to me was a statement which we've discussed ad nauseum before, is to go ahead with enforcing the ordinance as it is. So nothing was voted on. They simply told me, we're not going to negotiate if it involves us changing the ordinance. We're enforcing the ordinance as it is, and we're going forward with that unanimously. All 6 of them said that. The information that I got from them was for my benefit, to make sure that we all understood what the issues were. The mayor has plenty on his plate, with me monitoring 6 of them, as well as the mayor presiding. I don't want communication to get lost between the mayor and me. I want it to get clearly presented to all of the council members, so that's why that was done. But no action was taken that bound the city. If something is done that binds the city, then obviously it has to come up for a vote, and you're given the right to speak at that time. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
So voting on whether to accept Ray's offer or not, isn't that the final action?
No, not at all. We have to have court approval to have any final action to begin with. It have to come back before you once a proposal has been made and accepted. We've got a number of different things that have been outlined as possible parameters of it. We've never made an offer that they accepted. They've never made an offer that we accepted. There have been some give and take back and forth, which I will not get into you with. You can ask Mr. Goff if you'd like. I'm not going to divulge an attorney-client privilege in discussing that, but I can tell you nothing was decided that binds anybody. We are voting, or they voted, to enforce the ordinance.
But they did vote in closed session on it.
To enforce the ordinance, which you voted on that when you filed an answer. You voted on that when you passed the ordinance.
There was no motion.
There was
No motion.
No.
They told me. The 6 of them
Your
told me.
letter stated that, so that's where that came from. I mean,
Yeah.
it was from your,
As far as a vote that binds the city,
Letter
no.
that-
A vote for my office that lets me know, are we in agreement? Do we have people that don't understand what the proposals are? But nothing was voted on that binds you to anything. You're bound to the extent you're enforcing the ordinance that's been on your books for some time. All of you are subject to that. The next step on this, without getting into this particular case, is if the names of these 100 or so vendors that were within Charlie's Antique Mall, they need to be paying a licensing fee, and they haven't been. So,
Will that be in the form of turning a list in, or is it okay for just verbally do that?
is it okay not to have a list?
Yeah,
We're not
that's-
enforcing not having a list
the
either.
ordinance is what it is, as it is. Now, if the ordinance is voted on to be changed, then that would change also, but as it is right now. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, don't misunderstand me. I'm not the judge. I'm your lawyer to help you enforce your ordinances as they are. Now, if they're changed and you choose to enforce it a different way, I'll certainly do that as well. I don't have a dog in the race as to what's right or wrong. It's the same way with any of you that can, if you drive through the city limit, the city streets at 55 miles an hour, if you don't like that, you're gonna sue somebody to set that aside.
But we don't arrest just one person for driving 55
No one's
miles
been
an hour.
arrested.
Or we don't make charges or
No
say
one's been
that-
charged.
I guess what we're asking is, do you have to have a list or not? Does the ordinance say that or not?
Yes, it does say that. Here.
Okay, that's
No,
what I
not a
was
list,
saying.
you have to give the names and the addresses
It
of
says
it.
list.
Yeah, it's, the list is what I was saying, that nobody else has done that either. That was my
They
point.
have.
That the city council
That's
would,
not true.
They have.
That's not true.
Without
I asked
getting-
for a
had
copy of the
one public-
list.
we
You
asked
said
for a
no,
copy
that
of
they
it,
just told you who
and
was
you said
there.
y'all never had that.
How would you know who was there or not? You told me that you couldn't trust Ray to give you an accurate, you can't do
No,
that to
I
one.
did not tell you
Okay,
that.
let me say
No.
something.
But,
Yeah, Howard said nobody
Mayor,
had ever come to
do
this.
you have any more questions about the Kentucky Open Records Act or the Meeting Act? If you do, I'll answer them.
No, I just wanna know, do you have to have a list, yes or no, really?
Does anybody have any questions about the act? Either one, I'll answer those. Do you have a question?
You did say that, as a city council, and we could vote to change some things, to make some things work, to save our town. You said we could do a vote and make some changes. I'm talking for a win-win. Let's save our town here. I don't wanna see a ghost town. I'm concerned.
Do you have any questions about either of the acts, open records or open meeting act?
Just that you had said about being able to vote. Could we do
But
that?
you don't, anybody have any questions about either of the acts? That's the main reason I'm here, because of that.
I guess I do, in the form of an Open Records Act, if the people turn the list in, wouldn't it be in Open Records, and if we requested it, shouldn't we have a copy of it?
The names.
That's right, yeah, the list,
Of the
The
list.
names.
the list.
You get the names.
Why would the list be, not available for us?
Why would the list not be available?
The names would be the list. Their addresses would not be given to you.
The list that were turned in by the mall owners.
Right.
That's required by February 15th, according to the ordinance.
Well, there likely would be a Privacy Act issue on that, but the names you'd be entitled to.
That's part of why maybe that they
But I
don't
don't.
want to turn one
She told me
over.
that we didn't have that. That there wasn't one. That was verbally done.
Does that answer your question? Did you get the names? I don't know their motives for not wanting to.
You're being
comply.
very evasive. You're doing a good job being evasive.
Politics.
Well,
Well, James told me, she said there
Hey.
wasn't one. She
What-
said there wasn't a.
Whatever
We
you
were
think
told-
is fine. But
Yeah,
now-
I know it
But
is.
what I will tell you, as I said, your request, if you submit it, it'll be complied with. You'll get the names.
I don't have the list. That's what I requested,
didn't
the
request-
list
we
that was
requested
due on
the
the
list.
February the 15th from the different malls.
we're a group of merchants that have a great concern, and we're being dealt with like a group of idiots. We're being lied to time after time after time. You guys should be ashamed the lies we've caught people in, and sooner or later that's going to come back. And
Well, I'm not aware of any lies that have been told
Well,
you.
you're asleep at the switch then.
Well, tell me what they are, because I'd like to know.
Well, I was told that there were no lists. I was told, Janice told me there were no lists in front of Nikki and I. I mean, she brought it in very nicely, typed with names from different years, but that there were no lists. So it was all right that other people were not submitting a list of vendors with addresses.
Okay, what else?
Okay?
That seems like malicious.
What other lie?
Well,
That's a
we
big
can get
enough
into a
one.
lot of them. Well, Angie and I met with the mayor for about 3 hours. He twice in the meeting told us, I can make this council vote any way I want to. We don't have to discuss it. We put that in a letter to the paper. The paper wouldn't print that.
Probably a good call that they didn't.
No, we were just telling the truth.
Probably a good call that they didn't.
No. The truth is not libelous, and you know that.
Probably good that they didn't. What else?
You sound like a broken record.
I don't know. I think this is
I'm
important
surprised the
enough.
city.
This is-
I'm surprised the city
What else?
hires you, my
What
friend.
else? Well, tell me the other lies, sir. I'm trying to get to the root of the problem.
Well, that
Well-
it wasn't personal. I've heard that it
Yeah.
wasn't personal
The
on the
mayor
news.
says it's not personal.
but-
It's pure and simple personal.
But when it's
a-
when it's
a
one-on-one,
vendetta.
it is personal.
It's
It's
a
a pissing
vendetta.
contest. So it depends on where we're
That
at
was-
as to.
That's your term. That's fine. Anything else?
that's
Tell me all of them,
that's my
because as city attorney, I would like to know. That's 3. What else you got?
Well, I mean, how many you expecting us to have?
Well, I haven't heard one that bothers me yet, but tell me what else.
You haven't?
As citizens of Hazel, aren't we
Yes,
entitled
absolutely.
to be concerned about this?
Absolutely.
We're on homes here and businesses
Have
here.
you consulted them?
Yes, I have. I've tried.
Okay, great. That's what we're going to talk about. And you may have been successful in talking to them. I don't know.
I doubt it.
I hope so.
Well, we hope so,
I mean,
because
this-
it makes sense to be.
Does this represent a majority of the vote of Hazel? I mean,
A majority of the votes.
What do you mean?
Businesses.
well, are they represented? I don't know exactly how many licenses there are. Is the majority of those that are subject to this ordinance, are they present tonight?
The,
That are subject to this
Not if you
ordinance.
count every person that's in a
Well,
mall.
we've run most of the vendors off, though. I mean, so we're doing good now. We've got 3, I think. Maybe a couple more will come in with Larry and them.
Okay.
But we're down to 3, so we've gotten rid of most of the vendors. So we're,
this, yeah, to put it in perspective, I would be proud of everybody if we resolve this. I don't
Yeah,
wanna
I
win
don't
or lose.
want to fight. I don't want to do this.
I just want my business to be worth what it was a month ago.